Hi Year 11s. So I'm going to be talking to you today about how to write an introduction for a comparative response essay. I'm looking forward to going through this with you. It's going to be a pretty content heavy video, so make sure you are paying attention, you are writing notes as you watch the video, because we are going to be talking quite in depth about how I would like you to structure your introduction. We're going to focus on introduction first. Next lesson, we will be moving on to body paragraphs and conclusion. So I really want to make sure that you guys understand structure as best you can. All right, so things to remember about comparative response essays. Comparative text responses share many features with analytical text responses, like what we did with 1984. They both require you to write a coherent essay with an introduction, body paragraphs, and conclusion. It requires you to take a position on an essay topic. You must be able to present a line of argument about and a consistent interpretation of the text. So basically, you have to know the text really well. You must include detailed textual analysis, including brief quotations, to support your arguments and reasoning. Of course, you know all of this stuff. On the other hand, comparing two texts requires a balancing act, a balance between the two texts and between writing about an individual text and writing about two texts together. So you can't talk about one text more than the other. You need to make sure that you are discussing both in balance. So in order to avoid students talking about one text more than the other, or God forbid, summarizing instead of analyzing, I'm going to be showing you a way to write an essay, a way to structure an essay that makes it really difficult for you to focus too much on one text. There are other ways to write these essays. I'm not saying it's the only way. So if you have a friend at another school that's saying, oh, I write it this way, that could totally be true and totally is fine. But this is the way that I'm going to set you up to approach your essay. It actually sets you up to write a deeper essay analysis as well. This is the kind of structure that exam markers will be looking for. It is a little bit more difficult, but honestly, once you wrap your head around it, it does, I think, it makes a lot more sense to write in this structure than to write in any other way. Alrighty, so this structure organizes paragraphs according to ideas rather than discussing text one paragraph after the other. So sometimes when people write a comparative essay, they might have their introduction, and then paragraph 1 might be about one text, and then paragraph 2 might be about the second text, and then paragraph 3 might be about both texts. That's actually not a very good comparative analysis when it's written like that. You could write it in a really great way and get a acceptable grade, but it's not really comparative analysis if you're not comparing and contrasting throughout the whole essay. So with this structure that I'm going to show you, comparison of the two texts occur throughout the response rather than just in particular paragraphs. So first of all, your introduction states your position or argument in response to the topic with brief reasons, and we're going to go into a lot of detail on that in just a few minutes. Paragraph 1, discuss one key similarity or difference between the text in relation to your position or argument on the topic. Paragraph 2, same thing. Paragraph 3, same thing. Conclusion, discuss both texts in a concluding paragraph. So your paragraphs follow very similar structures. You are focusing on similarities or differences between the texts. You are not focusing on particular events that happen in the text. So the great thing about this structure is it actually forces you not to mention events or characters or dialogue or quotes in your topic sentence for your paragraph. You must focus on an idea. You can't focus on a plot point. So I think this is a really good thing. Now, planning is extremely important when you're using this structure, as each key similarity or difference must be clearly identified in your topic sentence at the beginning of each paragraph. We actually went into this quite a bit when we were doing textual analysis. I know that I pushed this quite hard with you guys, that your topic sentence, so the first sentence of each paragraph, must be about an idea. So this shouldn't be a new idea to you. It's very important that you write in depth and detail on each text. You must avoid skipping back and forth between the text in each paragraph. You don't want to write one sentence about night, one sentence about Diary of a Young Girl, one sentence about night, one sentence about diary. You don't want to do that. You want to write in detail on one text and then discuss the same point in relation to the other texts. So that's something that we're going to go into a little bit later, but we are focusing on introduction today. So your introduction will follow a similar progression to the introduction that you were taught to write for 1984, although being a comparative essay, it will be a little longer. Now, it is more important than ever that you focus on ideas, not summarizing the contents of the book. In a comparative essay, your focus must be on ideas that the book presents, not on just what happens in the plot. So this is the structure of your introduction. Firstly, you'll respond to essay topics, questions, or prompts. So you might have a big idea. It's not going to be focused on one particular text. Okay, it's going to be a big idea that encompasses a discussion that can be had in relation to both texts. You then need to introduce both of your texts and clearly link them to your response to the essay topic. Now, I've said 1 to 2 sentences there. I actually want to change that to perhaps 3 to 4. I wouldn't go beyond 4 though. Outline your arguments that support your response to the essay topic. Now, this is something you know. Remember, in your introduction for 1984, I said state your contention, so your response to the essay topic, outline your arguments, bam, done. That's your introduction. This is a little bit different. It goes for a little bit longer. So you outline your arguments that support your response to the essay topic. There should be as many sentences as there are paragraphs, let's say 3. Lastly, you comment on the overall author's intention in relation to the essay topic, 1 to 2 sentences. Now that is in green for a particular reason, and I'll explain why at the end when we get to that point. So a grand total of 9 sentences maximum. So I'm going to give you guys an example essay topic. I'm going to show you how to structure an introduction based on the essay topic using the format that I've already supplied to you. So this is my example prompt. Anne makes the following statement in her diary. I still believe, in spite of everything, that people are really good at heart. Compare her experiences with Ellie's experience and their differing views on humanity. Now, this is a really broad essay topic. I can talk about anything I want. So I needed to go into a bit of depth about what I thought in relation to this topic. Now, one thing you guys need to understand, no one can pull a really great first sentence for an essay just out of nowhere. No one can do it. I certainly can't. You certainly can't. You need to think first. The best way to think, I believe, is to write whatever is coming to your head. So I just sat down and I wrote a little bit of information that this prompt, this essay topic, made me think. So firstly, what do I think about this prompt? I said, I think it is our experiences that dictate our ability to hope and have faith in others. Anne and Ellie have different experiences, obviously. Ellie was completely ignorant of what was happening to Jews in Europe. His ignorance and the ignorance of elders in his community is what led to his incarceration and his family's death. He couldn't believe the extent of people's depravity and therefore could not imagine what lay in store for him. Anne, on the other hand, only experienced kindness from others for the duration of her diary reading. Even though she was an outcast in her community, she and her family were assisted in hiding for 2 years by people who cared about her at their own expense. She didn't know what was happening to Jews in camps, she only knew what she had experienced. So for her, although her life was restricted, she knew what it was to be cared for and a recipient of kindness. Ellie did not. Therefore, he could not share the same sentiment about humanity that Anne expressed in her diary. Personally for me, I think that Anne's sentiment that people are really good at heart, it's very naive. That's what I think anyway. So I need to prove it though, if that's something that I'm going to try to express in my essay. So I've sort of whittled that paragraph down to what I really think, or what my response to the essay topic is going to be. This is my contention. It is our experiences that define our perception of humanity, our ability to hope and our ability to have faith. It is impossible for someone to appreciate all the good and all the evil that people are capable of. That's what I want to express. Now you can see from my contention, I do not mention either book at this point. I am purely talking about an idea, and that is what I want you to get into the habit of doing. Now that is 2 sentences that I've expressed there. All right, so now I need to introduce both texts and clearly link them to my response to the essay topic. So these are 5 things you need to do when you are introducing both texts. You need to outline the setting. You need to name the text and the author. You need to establish how they both connect to the essay topic. Either vaguely or specifically discuss the characters. Now that's not a big thing, and I'll show you what I mean soon. You need to try to have different linking phrases. Do not use the same words over and over again, okay? All right. So this is my example This is my example of introducing both texts. Both Diary of a Young Girl by Anne Frank and Night by Elie Wiesel explore the concept of good and evil. Anne is perpetually trapped in a situation forced on her by the Nazi regime in Amsterdam from blah, 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 blah. Anyway, read through that in your own time. I did 5 sentences here and I read it afterwards and I went, oh my gosh, I've done exactly what I told you guys not to do. I have to try to cut this back, otherwise I'm a hypocrite. Whenever you're writing, you must reread your work always and ask yourself, out of all I've written, what is not necessary? Now, I can tell you the very first line of this paragraph is crap. It doesn't actually say anything. It says that both books explore the concept of good and evil. Like, what does that tell you? It doesn't tell you anything. It's fluff. I'm going to get rid of it. Okay, so I'm going to show you, this is the paragraph, or sorry, these are the sentences. I've cut it down to 3 sentences, and I think it's so much better. It's much more succinct. I want you to read that, pause the video, read that in your own time, just because I don't want the video to go on for too long. But this is basically how I've introduced both texts. Look at the colors, look at how they correlate with what I've put on slide 11, so 2 slides back. These 5 different things that you need to make sure you include when you're introducing both texts. Okay, so now we're up to outlining arguments. I need to ask myself, what am I actually trying to prove? So my first sentence was, it is our experiences that define our perception of humanity, our ability to hope, and our ability to have faith. It is impossible for someone to appreciate all the good and all the evil that people are capable of. So what are my arguments that support this? So I've had to think about it. Now, keep in mind, each of my arguments do not refer to any characters. Sorry, one of them vaguely does, but it doesn't go into detail. They do not refer to events in the book. They do not include quotes. Your arguments should give you the chance to talk about both texts, so they must be broad enough to talk about both texts. You can't start off talking about Ellie or talking about Anne. You have to start off with an idea. So my first argument is that people are unable to take into consideration that which they have not experienced. Therefore, it is impossible to know that people are really good at heart. My second argument is when someone has lost everything, what is there left to hope for? My third argument is we can only speak from our experiences, and both texts recount experiences from vastly different perspectives. One from a man looking in retrospect, so looking back on his life, another from a young girl living in the moment. Now, each of these arguments set me up to talk about both texts, and I can pull out information, I can pull out evidence and quotes from both texts to support the arguments that I've presented. If you have any questions about any of these steps along the way, please make sure you note them down so that you can ask me later and I can answer your questions. Okay, so these are my arguments. Oh, sorry, they're not my arguments. Oh my gosh, sorry, I've got a title there that I shouldn't have. I apologize. This is my comment on the overall author's intention. Now, it is important to consider the author in your essay. 1 or 2 sentences at the end that discuss the author's intent will make your response far stronger. However, the reason why I had this particular bubble in green is because whether you include this in your introduction or in your conclusion is up to you. Personally, I do not think that a fantastic, amazing introduction needs this in it. It may, if it works with what you're saying, please mention author's intention, absolutely. But if you do not do it in your introduction, you must do it in your conclusion. So I want you to have a read of what I've read, of what I've written here. Ultimately, both Weissel and Frank had different reasons for describing their experiences, and neither one expected to be telling their story to the world in the manner they did. However, both texts provide profound insight into the multiple facets of humanity and ensure that the consideration of universal human rights is never silenced. I'll be perfectly honest with you. I think that this is actually so much better for my conclusion than my introduction. So I would put this in my conclusion, not my introduction. However, I have included it so you can see what it might look like if you were to put this in an introduction. And this is the final product. Here we go. So I've colored it in. So yellow is my response to the essay topic. Blue is me introducing the texts and linking these texts to my response to the essay topic. Red are the outline of my arguments, so the summary of my arguments, 1 sentence each. And then green is my comment on the overall author's intention. So you can see that throughout this process, it's really important you stick to structure. If you throw structure out the window, you're going to have no idea what the hell to write, okay? It's just not going to come to you automatically. I really want you to have a go at trying this out for yourself and figuring out the best way for you to write. Like I said, it doesn't come naturally necessarily. It might be something you struggle with for a little while, and that's okay. But once it clicks, it's going to make so much more sense. And hopefully it makes English a little bit easier for you so you don't feel like it's too interpretive. There is actually a structure to follow. Now, please go back and rewatch this video in sections. I know I've talked really fast. I've tried to get through all of this information so that you have enough time to go through it yourself. Good luck, and I'm looking forward to seeing your introductions.